Okay, so we're gonna have to go through this because Lindsay Ellis is a huge liar or a misrepresenter. I don't know how you want to.
Like just within the last 24 hours, we
Liar's
have her
good. I like
comparing-
liar. Liar's a nice ring to it.
Right.
Lie.
Okay, so
Do you think it's lies or stupidity? We're gonna call it lies anyway, just for shits and giggles.
some combination of the two.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly I don't know. Lindsay Ellis could just be delusional. I mean, this is the person who gave a TED talk about how it's the horrible right wingers on Twitter trying to cancel everyone. So she could literally be insane.
Yeah.
We don't know. But no, but let's look at the thread that Lindsay's talking about, because what she does is she takes all these tweets from J.K. Rowling out of context to make her look like horrible.
Is this the thread that I'm supposed to bring up? The thread that you sent me?
Yes, this is the thread you're supposed to bring up.
So you linked specifically to this. P.S. I've just released. You can't see.
But
Sophie's.
go up to the top of the thread.
Okay.
And I'll just go through it. So
J.K. Rowling, July 5th, 2 days before the letter saying cancel culture sucks. Fuck off, you SJWs.
Right. So you see, she's responding to a tweet that has 5,000 likes that says, "Who had money on J.K. Rowling pivoting to support those who call people who take mental health medication lazy? I take daily medication to function. This sentiment is beyond offensive. It's actively harmful to millions."
How is it harmful? I don't get nut up, dude. Fucking double your dose or whatever you got to do. But
well, also it's not even true, because if you scroll down back to the tweet, the direct one that I linked to, this is what the person is saying, that, oh, this is the tweet that J.K. Rowling liked or retweeted or whatever, that the person is saying, oh, J.K. Rowling is calling those who use mental health medication lazy. This tweet is from someone named
Sophie.
Sophie, and this is a trans woman, by the way. Okay. This is so this is a trans woman.
What does that
saying,
have to do with anything?
Well, it's very relevant, because you'll see her tweet. Sophie's tweet is, "Hormone prescriptions are the new antidepressants. Yes, they are sometimes necessary and life-saving, but they should be a last resort, not the first option. Pure laziness for those who would rather medicate than put in the time and effort to heal people's minds."
Yeah. In that new book that I read, they talk about how testosterone is just like a huge antidepressant.
Yes. But so this is a trans woman who is saying not that people are lazy for taking mental health medication, but that doctors, that mental health providers are lazy, and that instead of taking the time and energy to actively heal whatever people's psychological problems are, they just prescribe people medication. And and a trans woman, that's why it's important, because she's talking about her own experiences, and I assume experiences of people she knows that are also trans. And she's talking specifically about hormones. So if you scroll back up, this is the dishonest framing that this Tristan person is
She's talking about the
Rowling.
doctors being the lazy ones.
Right.
Those lazy doctors.
Right. So in this thread that J.K. Rowling put out, this was, so much controversy at the time. Everyone's like, oh my God. So J.K. Rowling says, "I've ignored fake tweets attributed to me and retweeted widely. I've ignored porn tweeted at children on a thread about their art. I've ignored death and rape threats. I'm not going to ignore this." And she continues, "When you lie about what I believe about mental health medication, and when you misrepresent the views of a trans woman for whom I feel nothing but admiration and solidarity, you cross a line. I've written and spoke about my own mental health challenges, which include OCD, depression, and anxiety. I did so recently in my essay, Turf Wars. I've taken antidepressants in the past, and they've helped me. Many health professions are concerned that young people struggling with their mental health are being shunted towards hormones and surgery when this may not be in their best interest." Okay.
True.
It's true. Many, myself included, believe we are watching a new kind of conversion therapy for young gay people who are being set on a lifelong path of medicalization that may result in the loss of their fertility and or sexual function.
Told you, Dumbledore's totally gay.
Now you might say, well, that's a strong claim for J.K. Rowling to make. She has to provide evidence for that. Does she provide evidence? Yes, because the very next tweet says, these concerns were explored by the recent BBC documentary. So it's the BBC, the notorious right-wing propaganda, place.
Basically Fox News in Great Britain.
Fox News. Yeah. By this recent BBC documentary about the Tavistock Clinic, whistleblowers were talking about transitions driven by homophobia. So she links to like a 12, 13-minute video that I watched, and it's very disturbing. It's about how this one clinic in the UK, all these people working there had all these misgivings about a lot of the hormone treatments and trans treatments that were given to children that they didn't think it was appropriate to give these kids treatment for. And this is from the people who worked there said this, okay? This isn't some secret right-wing, infiltrator. And there were people talking about how there were many cases, which I think is strange, but there are many cases where people were upset that their children were gay, or they were upset with doctors suggesting their children could be gay instead of trans, and then they would prefer that their kids would be and that they would prefer that their kids be trans instead of gay because they viewed being gay is so negative.
Really? Oh my God.
Now I wonder, because the only other place they don't talk about this in the video, they don't specify, but I wonder, because the only other time I've ever heard about this concept of people preferring their kids be trans than gay is in some Islamic countries. So I'm wondering if, and I know that UK, there's a lot of Muslim immigration. So I'm wondering if the people who felt that way were Muslim or not. They don't specify in the video, but
of course they can't. That would be racist.
Well, no, but here's this is why Lindsay is so dishonest. She's like, J.K. Rowling is conflating transgender treatment with conversion therapy. No, she's not. She's saying that in some cases, which she provides video evidence for, there are people who seem to be more on board, who seem to want their children that could be gay to transition to the opposite gender because they prefer that instead of their children being gay. And she provides evidence for that claim.
Well, I'm so glad Lindsay's going to attack that topic, because that's really an interesting dilemma there.
Right. But of course, Lindsay's not going to talk about it. Yeah, of course.
But of course, Lindsay's not going to talk about the actual dilemma involved.
Yeah, she's not going to talk about the actual dilemma. She's not going to bring forward. She's going to totally strawman J.K. Rowling. She's not going to bring forward J.K. Rowling's actual argument. She's not going to bring J.K. Rowling's evidence or anything like that. She's going to create this bullshit strawman of her being a transphobe and just knock it down. And
this is the argument that I'm always making, because the celebration of trans, the what do you even call it? The trans stuff. I'm trying to be respectful, because there are people that actually have gender dysphoria. Like the celebration of trans people's lives is making a lot of people go trans that don't even have gender dysphoria. So, I mean, you have to have a conversation about, are you doing the right thing by encouraging people who probably will live more fulfilled lives if they don't have some detransition episode in their life?
Right. I mean, and that's what's so... And I'm sympathetic to people who do have gender dysphoria saying, like, oh, you have to jump through all these hoops to get transitioned.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Well, you used to, yeah.
Yeah.
You used to. But the thing is, that was because we don't yet have, there's no biological test that can't, put your brain in the scan machine and say, oh, this percent gender dysphoria. So it's very difficult for clinicians to figure out whether you should transition or not. But now, because transgender and gender dysphoria have been sort of regulated to an identity instead of a medical condition, it's been so heavily celebrated, and it's basically like, oh, everything has to be centered around affirmative care. If someone says they have gender dysphoria, you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
Which is, it's very...
That's totally stupid.
Well, it's totally stupid, and it's so dangerous. I mean, I really think that 10 to 15 years from now, they're going to look back and they're going to say, this was a dark time in modern medicine where we allowed all these children to transition who didn't actually have gender dysphoria. And you're going to see that the rates of trans regret is going to skyrocket. That's my assumption, or my prediction about how this is going to happen.
It's even worse, because it's going to eviscerate the gay community. Like, the gay community is heavily targeted in this stuff. They're going to be
Right.
the ones that are detransitioning.
Right, and that's another thing that they talk about in the video that J.K. Rowling linked, is that, you know, they believe that there's a lot of kids who could just be gay and they're confused about being gay, and
Yep.
then they get kind of linked into all this trans stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Need to have
But
an
then,
adult conversation about it, Lindsay. Let's try
right,
that sometime.
yeah, exactly. Let's have a serious, nuanced adult conversation. But Lindsay's like, no, everything's in black and white. You know, J.K. Rowling's evil, and J.K. Rowling even continues. She even says all the right things, but Lindsay Ellis doesn't care. She even says, as I've said many times, transition may be the answer for some. Okay, so J.K. Rowling not saying no one should transition, not at all. For others, it won't. Witness the accounts of detransitions. And then she links a quote: "The system sees surgery as the easy fix to girls who do not conform."
Yeah, girls are especially targeted in this stuff.
Right. Well, that was what's interesting, is that before the transgender identity stuff exploded, it was, I think it was like something like 5-to-1 men transitioning or having gender dysphoria. It was more men that had gender dysphoria than women, and I think part of
Why
the
do you think
concern
that is?
well, it probably has something to do. And I'm just totally speculating here. Okay, this is totally an ass pull here, because they don't really know exactly what causes gender dysphoria. But it could be something related to hormones in the womb, and I think it's more likely that male babies get extra female hormones in the womb because they're in a woman, obviously, than the other way around.
Men also have oh man, I can't remember the name of it. It's like autoerotic gynephilia or something like that. How I even remember that? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I don't.
Is the term right? Am I getting it right?
So there's a theory that some people talk about, which is
it's been studied. They totally tried to cancel the guy who did a lot of the study on it. It's in the most recent book that I read.
So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not comfortable in saying that there's some large amount of people with gender dysphoria that don't actually have gender dysphoria, but have this sexual attraction to the idea of being a woman. But
yeah, it's called
I'm not sure
autoerotic
about that.
gynephilia. These people traditionally became cross dressers, but now that they can transition, I guess that just turns them on even more. But there's a famous doctor that studied this a lot, and the trans activists tried to cancel this guy for studying it and putting him out of business, basically.
Well, that's the big problem with all this, with a lot of the way trans activism is working right now, is that gender dysphoria and trans issues need to be studied a lot more scientifically, and basically you're not allowed to study them unless you're affirming the narrative. You're not allowed to study them with science whatsoever. It's total science denial.
But that's the problem with science, Sitch. Sometimes the results come back and they fuck your whole narrative up.
Yep. It's ridiculous. But anyway, JK continues. She says, Sophie, the person she's responding to, is a trans woman and a true feminist ally. She was making the point that antidepressants were overprescribed to teenagers in the past with serious consequences. She links some article. The long-term health risks of cross-sex hormones have now been tracked over a lengthy period. These side effects are often minimized or denied by trans activists. So this has been talked about on Joe Rogan and other places, that they act like when they give these kids hormone blockers or hormones of the opposite gender, that there's no secondary effects, there's no problems, there's no concerns with any of this. And more evidence is piling up to show that this isn't true, which should be fucking obvious. Obviously, if you're blocking like puberty, okay, the natural thing that your body wants to do is going to have ramifications. Okay. And so the article she links, which is kind of interesting, is they talk about how something not being discussed is that a lot of the hormone treatments, I believe they're saying they studied 2,500 transgender women who received estrogen. So these are men who are transitioned to be trans women. Oh, and they also studied transgender women who transitioned to men. So they studied both, and they found that they had a significantly higher risk of having heart problems.
Ooh, ouch.
And cardiovascular events. And they looked into it, and they're saying that giving people these opposite hormones they did something to your heart that made it harder for your heart to function properly in the long run. and they had like a 3 times elevated chance to have a heart attack or something. So
Fun.
but none of this is being discussed to people when they want to transition. No one's saying, oh, well, you got to make sure that you actually have gender dysphoria because, you have heart problems down the road, et cetera, et cetera. No, it's all just, oh, it's all fine. Nothing, no big deal. Then, JK continues saying, Carl Hagen, professor of evidence-based medicine at Oxford University, has described off-label use of puberty blockers on under 18s as unregulated live experiment on children. None of that may trouble you or disturb your belief in your own righteousness, but if so, I can't pretend I care much about your bad opinion of me. So that's the whole Twitter thread. Nothing in it, I would say, is transphobic. She affirms that there are people that should transition. She's just saying that she thinks that it's overprescribed to kids and that there's unintended side effects that aren't being discussed. But no.
Shocker.
Not allowed to question the narrative whatsoever. Okay.